I'm live. This was not scheduled. This was just something that I wanted to do. Because a lot of y'all don't understand how we live here in Appalachia. So I thought I would share a little bit about how we live here in Appalachia. And a lot of people think Appalachians are crazy. They think people that live in the country are crazy. They think that people who rely on nature are crazy. But I'm just going to tell you, after I had multiple specialists about to kill me this year, not believe that I had mastoiditis, almost allowed to get to meningitis and almost kill me, then almost kill me with the antibiotics. Some of the things my great-grandma and my grandma taught me, and my mother taught me, are coming in real handy right now. I'm just not even going to tell you. So, I get a lot of issues with my bladder because I have interstitial cystitis. I get a lot of issues with my bowels because I have something very similar to diverticulitis because of my RSD that affects my organs in my bowels. So, I just filmed myself gathering goldenrod. This is goldenrod. It's blooming everywhere right now. It's beautiful. It smells good. I try to watch the plants that I take and make sure I'm not taking any plants that have, you know, like egg sacs and everything on them. But I harvest plants and then look, I've shook them off, shook them off, shook them off, shook them off. So there are no bugs or anything on there that I should be concerned about. And I'm just pushing them down this mason jar. And I'm cutting off the stem where most of the leaves start. That's all I'm doing is doing this. And I'm keeping the bulk of this. This is where your medicinal crap is. And I'm pushing it down into my mason jar. I may have gotten too much. This is like a 2-week process, but it literally is no effort whatsoever. I am feeling better. I'm feeling much better. My son just messaged me and asked if I was alive and well. Apparently I am. I'm live on YouTube. Next bundle going in the mason jar. You want to pack it decent, but you want to leave room because there's one more really good additive you have to put in there. And that is a high-grain alcohol. So you want to put something in there that's, you know, as close to 100 proof or more as you can get. I do not like alcohol. I am not a drinker. We do use medicinal moonshine here in the sticks. As you can guess where I'm from, you kind of grow up with it. I'm not going to show you what I put in mine because I'm not being sponsored. So I'm not going to tell you what I'm putting into mine. We'll say it's 92 proof and I found that it works pretty good. So I'm going to pour my 92 proof. Whoo, that is, I don't even want to smell alcohol. Pour my 92 proof over my goldenrod. And people say, but alcohol's so expensive, and so is going to the freaking doctor and paying out the yazoo for antibiotics. Okay, I've got the alcohol in my goldenrod, just barely topped it off. It will sink a little bit as the goldenrod kind of works its way down. Now you don't want your metal lid to come in contact with what's going on in here, so make some plastic and put over the top. So I'll make a little plastic square and I put it over the top. And then a screw on my lid so that we don't have any metal contact. Now you're going to put this in a place where it's going to be nice and cool and dark. You're going to leave it for a couple weeks, and every few days you're going to get it and you're going to shake the snot out of it. Shake the snot out of it. And then you're going to put it back in its nice, cool, dark place. And then after a couple, 3, 4 weeks, however long you want to let it sit there, it will turn into a very dark, tarry looking liquid. And what you'll do is you'll take a cheesecloth or another strainer, and you will strain out all the liquid from the plant matter. And you'll put that liquid in a tincture bottle, and you will use a dropper full, half a dropper full. You can use it once to twice a day. If you have bowel issues, if you have yeast issues, if you have yeast build up in your body, if you have yeast issues in your mouth, you can use it as a swish and spit. It will absolutely kill the yeast. It's great for anti-inflammatory properties. It's great. I mean, it's just a little bit of everything. Tummy woes. And this doesn't taste as bad as like Golden Seal and some of the other stuff that people use. So this is really good. I literally got it 40 foot in my pasture right outside my kitchen window. Backyard medicine. So, and you know, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a hillbilly witch. I am just a person whose great-grandmother was more Indian than anything else and who taught me some stuff, and I try to pay attention and reuse it. So this is what I will be using this year. I did not have any of this, and I don't like to buy it from other people. So when it is, yeah, turmeric's great too. So when I have issues again, if I have to do another course of antibiotics, which I don't want to have to do, I'll go with this first. But if I have any other issues with yeast like I had the last time with this mastoiditis issue and everything, I will be going to this first. But I'm going to have to put this in a cold, dark place and let it do its thing for several weeks. And then I'll kind of show you as it finishes up what it looks like, how you finish it up, and how you use it. I'm not crazy. I also have, my husband has really bad kidney stones, and because I have interstitial cystitis, I also use gravel root. Gravel root is, they used to give me Urispaz for my bladder spasms, which is another issue with my RSD. Gravel root is great for bladder spasms. Yeah, vinegar. People don't understand how strong and how great vinegar is. Vinegar is like one of those things that Jesus gave us that we're like, it stings to high heaven, but thank you, Lord. We appreciate it. We can pickle everything. We can flush our systems out. It's great. You can make so many homemade things that are really easy, you know, and that are really effective, and you shouldn't feel like a quack when you do it. So, sea salt and cabbage. I actually made some mixed pickles, and I made those with sea salt, and then I made them also with a little bit of pickling salt. And if I feel sick or I feel the cold or something coming on, I will take maybe like 3 or 4 big heaping teaspoons of my mixed pickles, which are cabbage, which you know cabbage is one of those superfoods, which is cabbage, vinegar, sea salt, and it's got all those really, you know, potent things, and it just kind of helps your body kind of clean out. People don't understand these things. Maybe I was raised different. I was raised when I trail rode, I would stop at a sassafras tree and I would pick the sassafras limb and I would eat all the sassafras leaves. And people thought I was crazy. I would guide trail rides and I would stop at a sassafras tree and they'd be like, "What are you doing?" "I'm getting me some leaves to eat." They thought I was crazy. I go outside and pick dandelion leaves and eat them. When I get mosquito bit, I'll get a plantain leaf and chew it up, or rub it my hands really, you know, a lot to get to emulsify, and I'll slap it on my skeeter bites when I'm sitting out by the fire in the evenings. And people just look at you like you're nuts, and I'm like, you do know that people made their way in this world long before physicians were a thing. Yeah, I didn't know I was going to be chronically ill until I hit about 36, 37. And so this is just how I was raised. And I didn't know that I was going to have these issues. But now that I have these issues, I'm like, I gave my attention and my heart to the medical world, and all they did was screw me over and tell me, "Oh, you're not feeling that. You're not dealing with that. That can't be plausible. That can't be possible. You must be misrepresenting the truth." And I would just look at them. The last doctor I saw when I had to, because we do not have a local hospital, so I cannot be admitted locally by my physician. So I have to go to a neighboring ER when my pancreas and my bowels flare up. And what happens is my pancreas enzymes will go sky high, my bowels will lock down, and my bladder, my interstitial cystitis will act up, and it's extremely painful. And normally it takes about a 5 to 7 day stay in the hospital to get my body to calm the crap down. And it is because of the diseased nervous system basically that I have in my body from trauma. And yeah, it's a pain in the butt to deal with, isn't it, when you have these incurable things. You just have to learn how to patch yourself up and go on. But I went in and I had a doctor look at me, and because I have tattoos, he goes, how much alcohol have you had today? Sir, I don't drink. Like, you could put the whole amount of alcohol that I have drunk in my entire life probably in one wine bottle. Because I just don't drink. I had 2 babies by the time I was 21. I never had time to be wild and drink. And then I'm a complete type A control freak, so I don't drink. I don't drink. And by the time I've stained this out, there will be so little alcohol left. It's not even, and when you take 2 droppers, you're not putting enough alcohol in your system to hurt yourself. But I looked at the man and I said, I don't drink. And he said, well, I've never met anyone with a pancreas problem this bad, but what they've been an alcoholic most years. And I said, well, I've never met anyone that went to 8 to 12 years of college be a ply blank idiot, but I guess we're both meeting new people today, aren't we? Because I'm a turd. So that's what I told him. He did not like me. So he said, I'm going to run an alcohol test on you. I said, you can run whatever test you want to. I said, you want me to pee in a 10 panel? What do you want? I'll give it to you. And he got a little mad, but I thought, Betty, I'm hurting. I'm not pleasant when I'm in pain. And I'm only here an hour and something away from home because I have to be here. It's not because I'm here because I'm selling Avon and it's, profitable for me, you dumb butt. So he came back and he goes, oh, that was negative. Well, no shit, Sherlock, I don't drink. So the last 2 experiences I had at the ER were not pleasant. But when I had the mastoiditis and I had the last round of antibiotics about to kill my bowels, they could not get me admitted. I don't have a local hospital. My local doctor has no admitting power. The next ER over was like, sorry, we don't have the beds. We don't have the beds because we don't have the nurses. If we had the nurses, we would have the beds. It's a whole nother bag of worms. Then I call to the next hospital that's an hour down the other way in the mountain. Well, basically what we're doing is diverting anyone that is not, and I'm not going to lie, anyone that is not a vaccine side effect or a COVID patient. Well, crap, what do you expect me to do? Well, you should be able to go home and deal with this. I had the most horribly painful 3 weeks at home, allowing my bowels to heal. And I had actually gone into gastroparesis. And I'm just very lucky that I'd had enough pancreatic issues and I had enough knowledge about my own body to know what was going on and to know how to remedy and force the bowels to work again, because I've dealt with this for so many years. And so my trust in the medical field has gone, it's gone pure non-existent for the last little bit. And the doctor did come in and he, yeah, it's painful, isn't it? The doctor came in and he said, well, I apologize. I said, you made an assumption based on your first perception of someone. And I said, you look at me and I said, you see a sick woman with a lot of ink and you immediately think she's not a reputable person in society. And I said, but what you don't know is for a decade I kept you safe in your bed because I supervised the murderers that kill people. And I said, I shouldn't have to come in and give you a resume to say I'm worthy of treatment. You should just see a human in need and treat me. But our world is not there now. Like I went on I jumped in Sharon's chat last night, and I was trying to give my perspective of the medical field and my perspective of what I'm reading from the CDC and from Israel. And get a VPN account and look at international websites, people. Don't trust your national media. Go beyond. And I was reading that in Israel, where they're like 95 to 97% vaccinated, every issue they're having is with the vaccinated, but it's because the vaccinated bodies can't fight anything off, so everything's overwhelming them. And I'm sitting here going, why are we then pushing more and more and more? Why are we not looking for therapeutic approaches as opposed to vaccine approaches? It boggles my mind, because normally you should go with the less invasive form of treatment possible for the body and the benefit of the person. It just makes sense, right? You even learned that in veterinary school. And this woman goes, well, how dare you say that? Where did you hear that? In the Israel newspaper and the CDC. Do you not read these things? I'm concerned if you... Well, I know more because I'm a nurse. I can read. I have eyes. I can digest knowledge. I can look at the same peer-reviewed studies you're looking at, and I can digest that. And it was just like, people, stop discrediting other people's stories just because you think your status level is above someone else. I guarantee you there is somebody's little granny down here in the woods that could take better care of half these sick people in the world right now than these world-renowned doctors. And it's common sense. I don't see a lot of common sense anymore, and it worries the crap out of me, to be quite honest. I don't see any common sense anymore, and it worries the absolute crap out of me. And it's like, put on your sunglasses, or I'm going to get sun damage to my eyes. Use your birth control, or I may get pregnant. And it's just like, that's not how these things work. You understand that it's not how these things work. So, you know, and people keep looking at me and they're like, well, you're not scared of this virus? Well, it's, you know, you're not going to try to keep yourself from catching it? Honey, it's not an if, it's a when. If it's a virus, you can't stop. You can't stop it. It will mutate until it finds its way into every living thing, because they want taxi cabs. We are taxi cabs. And they will mutate and become weaker because they don't want to kill their taxi cabs, because that kills them. So I'm like, we're just going to have to face this. And they're like, you're okay saying that? You're okay sending people to their death? I'm not sending anybody to their death. I'm saying we have a virus, and we have to handle it rationally and logically, and we all have to prepare for the possible, you know, result that we're all going to have it. I'm immunocompromised. You may take me out. I could walk out my front door, fall off my front porch, and kill myself in 5 minutes. I think maybe from my perspective, this has shown the disconnect that our culture has with death, and the fear that our culture has with death. And we don't respect it. We don't revere it. We do not see it as a part of life. We do not see it as a reverenced part of life. You know, people say, well, we want to be immortal. I sit there and I think, if I could be given the power to be immortal, it scares the crap out of me. I don't want to be immortal. Yeah, they told me that my diagnosis is basically terminal, but because it attacks the organs so slowly, it's going to be one of those, long, slow, you know, and I'm like, oh, great. I couldn't have gotten the fast thoroughbred. I had to get on the donkey at the back of the pack. That's just my luck. But it has taught me a lot, because I have been told 5 times to prepare to die when I've been hospitalized. And so I've made peace long ago with death. And I look at everyone else running scared, and I'm like, you do realize that no one gets out of this place alive. It's just a little secret, but we all die. And how we treat each other and how we respond to each other is the important thing. But I had a woman last night, and she was like, I'm a nurse. You stop telling your lies. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you run yourself up my butt and was paying my bills and my mortgage and telling me what I can and can't do. And they were like, oh, well, don't get mad. I'm not getting mad. I'm telling her, until she runs herself up my butt, pays my bills, then I get to say what I want to say as well. She doesn't get to cut me off and say, I'm a nurse. I'm a chronically ill patient that has to deal with 4 to 6 specialists and a plethora of nurses, and I have to do more medical research than most physicians probably do in a year to keep up with my body. And so I was very disrespected by when she said, I'm a nurse. Okay, thank you. And that's like, I appreciate that you're a nurse. You're a nurse halfway around the world, which probably has very little bearing on what I'm going through. But thank you. But she couldn't appreciate what I was saying at all. She couldn't. I mean, I was like, yeah, we have to appreciate everybody's stories. That's it. We have to advocate for ourselves. And until we learn to tell our story and allow everyone else to tell their story, we're just going to shut ourselves down, just like all the big newspapers are shutting us down. Oh, I'm not upset. I was just a little, it ticked me off a little bit, because because of my health issues and because of everything I deal with, I end up going in and having to educate the doctors and physicians about my very rare disorder before they can treat me. So I teach them about me so they can then bill me for thousands of dollars. And I get kind of grumpy about that. So when people jump up and say, I'm a nurse, I immediately go, well, you don't know everything, because I've met about 400 nurses since I've been ill with this disorder that have not had any training what I'm sick with. So I can guarantee if there's a gap in research in my area, there's a gap in research with everything else. Oh yeah, I guarantee you I have some PTSD going on. I have some trauma going on from where the doctors have treated me. And doctors can be very fickle people. Fickle people. I'm not very nice to them either. When they're not nice to me, I'm not nice to them. And I tell them, you get what you give. You walk in this room and you're a turd, guess what? And I can be a turd too. Because I'm going to have to pay you thousands of dollars. So I'm here for treatment. You're not Dr. Phil, shut up. That's kind of what I tell them. And my husband's in the corner like, oh Jesus. But, you know, I'm not here for a lecture. I'm not here for you to assume something about me. I'm here to look at the symptomology that I'm going through and treat it. I am very lucky that my local doctor is great. He's great and he's learning with me. But these freaking specialists that go over toward, you go over to Knoxville and Nashville and stuff, they are buttholes. They are buttholes. And I'm like, my God. I got an ENT specialist from like out of Idaho or Iowa or something like that. And he's the first person who hasn't balked at me when he did a CT of my head, and he said, why are you missing your 4 front teeth? Because I have a partial. And I said, well, I was halter breaking show cattle when I was 17, and I had a bull headbutt me. So I lost my 4 front teeth, had to have it repaired. And he goes, oh. And I was like, really? You're not going to freak out and go, what was a young lady doing? He goes, no. He's like, I used to rodeo when I was in college. And I was like, thank God. Because normally people look at me and go, what in the crap are you doing? Is this something did you have some younger siblings? Do we need to report the family? And I'm like, they grew up on a farm. We made money by showing our bulls so that we could sell semen. Idiots. Specialists are buttholes. I wonder what kind of bubble they live in sometimes. I'm like, what kind of bubble do you have to put yourself in to be in a career where you're helping people, but all you do is really piss them off all day long? And I'm not lying. Went to my ENT specialist who's dealing with an infection by my brain that could have been meningitis in a snap. And I'm sitting there waiting for him, and in the hallway I hear one of his nurses go, I've been drinking oat milk for a month and it's so great. I didn't even know that oats gave milk. And I was like, I trust these people with my life. What the crap? You don't get milk from an oat. You don't crush an oat and get milk. You soak the oats, then you strain the oats, and what you have is the nutrient-rich oat milk. It's not like a nut. You don't crush a nut and get milk. And he came in, and I was like, I'm a little concerned by what I just heard through the door, that one of your primary nurses didn't even know that oats, you can't get milk from oats. You have to soak the oats and drain the oats. And he goes, oh, that's just the girls. And I said, I'm sorry. I don't find stupidity endearing when you're dealing with an infection this close to my brain. He just kind of looked at me, and I was like, I don't find it appealing at all. And they get irritated, but you have to speak up for yourself, because that's not a comforting thing to hear when you're sitting and you're in a specialist surgical suite where people are supposed to be smarter than you. And I was just like, oh God, I want to leave right now. Now, granted, he's been pretty good. I've appreciated him. He's been pretty good. And he's been one that has finally identified that I have a cyclical vomiting issue instead of more of a pancreatic episode. I have the reverse. It's the cyclical vomiting that creates the pancreatic issues instead of the pancreatic issues creating the vomiting. So he's been really good. But how would you feel if you heard a nurse say that? A nurse. Exactly. I remind, and when I'm in the hospital, every time they come in to give me medicine, what is that? What are you giving me? What is that? Is it time for that? And they get really irritated with me. But I'm the one sitting there with the port going into my body. I want to know what you're putting in the port. And they get really irritated with me. And I'm like, I don't care if you get irritated with me. I don't care. This is your job. If you got highly irritated this quickly, you should have picked a different job. Because I'm sick, this is my body, and I want to know what you're putting in it. Because, you know, even, it's like, I mean, even if I were to go to somewhere and get a drink or get a pizza, if they delivered it and I couldn't identify the topping, I would go, what is that? I want to know what's going in my body, from the simplest form to medication. So I'm one of those weird ones. I also do not react well to medications. I will have every adverse reaction you could ever imagine. So I have to be very aware so that I can tell the doctors when I have issues. So, yeah. But I wanted to hop on and do this because here in a few weeks, this will become Goldenrod tincture. And it will look a lot different. But it will be very good for tummy issues, yeast overgrowth issues. I will predominantly use it for yeast issues because my bowels do like to overgrow yeast because they have a hard time keeping the ratio of good and bad bacteria. Even though I take probiotics and stuff, it's very difficult. My bowels are they're enemies. I mean, they're like working for somebody else. So I have to be very aggressive with my bowels. So when I start to understand that I'm having the overgrowing of yeast and I'm feeling the overgrowing of yeast, then I will start taking a couple of half droppers of this, one in the morning, one in the evening. I'm Native, I'm Cherokee, I'm Scots, Irish, and Cherokee. My mother's a beautiful, tawny complexioned woman that looks just like the Cherokee lineage, and I look like my father. I look like a potato farmer fixing to die in a famine. I did not get the pretty looks. My brother got the tawny complexion, and I am ticked about that. I'll try to show you a picture of my mother when she was younger. My great-grandmother looked just like a Cherokee. She looked just like somebody that came off the John Wayne Western Channel. And I would stay with her a lot. And I'm beautiful. I'm sassy and belligerent. I would stay with my great-grandmother a lot. And she would chew tobacco. And we were picking apples one day, and she had a little black pony in her pasture that would eat the weeds down. And we got under an apple tree and we're picking apples, and I guess the pony didn't want her to take those apples, and he came up and kicked her in the head, like cut her head, busted her head open. She started bleeding. She took her bandana out, wrapped it around her head, and then she got a big old limb off that apple tree. Beat that little pony within an inch of its life, saying Cherokee words that I never learned. And then went to the porch, changed to put a new bandana on it, tied it tight, went to the porch, sat in a rocking chair, started smoking her pipe. Every once in a while, she would still cuss the pony, and I was sitting on the porch steps going, please just don't be mad at me. She scared me. She was smart. Oh, God, she was smart. She terrified me. She terrified me. I grew up working broiler houses that had 21,000 chicks in them each. Working cattle. Taking care of beef cattle, taking care of mules. I could harness a 6-team draft mule team before I could go to kindergarten. My dad taught me how to shoe horses when I was little. My dad was a farrier. Yeah, I think that we're gonna see a lot of people going back to a lot of the old ways, and a lot of the people in Appalachia that they've called crazy for a lot of years, they're gonna be going, oh, y'all are not really that stupid, are you? It's like my son got stung. He's an arborist, so he was up a tree, and he came down a tree, and he got in a yellow jacket or a yellow hornet nest and got stung in the face. And of course, by the time he sends me the picture, he's swollen, and I'm like, damn it, could you not have called me earlier? And he's like, well, what should I do? I said, chew you some tobacco and stick on it and put a Band-Aid or a bandage over it. I said, after that's been on a couple hours, do your baking soda paste to pull it out. And I said, don't put a cold compress on it, put a warm compress on it to pull the venom out. And I said, when it swelling starts to go down, I said, make you some meat tenderizer and water. Seriously, meat tenderizer, that just comes from Save-A-Lot. Meat tenderizer and water is a little paste, and put it on there and stick you a piece of gauze over it, and it will pull the venom out, and it will help to, it will basically dehydrate the swelling. It will pull the swelling out, pull the venom out, and help the swelling. And then I told him, push come to shove, go get you some Preparation H and put on it so that it unswells. And he goes, good Lord, Mom. And I was like, if you go to the doctor, all they're going to do is give you steroids and Benadryl. You can take the Benadryl at home and do this and not have to deal with the, the after effects of the steroids on your body. And he got over it just fine. He did look kind of Chinese or like Oriental for a while in one eye, but yeah, it was funny. We all kind of made fun of him, told him to get alone and open a gas station, because everywhere here that's what they come in, they open the gas stations. We have pockets of people that move in, and they're very welcome here. We love them, but they only own certain businesses. And it's funny because they'll come to our businesses, we'll go to their businesses, and we all interact really well, and and the only place that you'll see us all together is fishing at the lake. Fishing at the lake is where every nationality, every type of human, you can get along, you go fishing at the lake. And so I'm sitting here going, I don't know why these other people in these other places have a difficult time, with people coming in, We get along with it fine. Now, unless they catch the biggest catfish of the lake, then we might have a problem with them. Because that's a big prize every year. But, I don't know. People are strange and fickle creatures. And I look at everybody as an individual contact. I won't make my mind up about you when I'm face to face with you. If I have a beef with you, I will have a beef with you immediately. I will not sit on it and think about it for 10 years. We will have a beef immediately, because I want to process it, get it over with, and move on. Because it's toxic and I don't want it hanging around. Other people want to sit back and formulate drama. And I'm like, hey, I don't have that kind of time. Hello, everybody. Precious Life. I like that name. That was very nice. That's very nice. But anyway, I thought some of y'all would find this handy. So literally 40 foot, 50 foot in my pasture that's overgrown, because I did not get it bush hogged, because my little fellers bush hog tore up on them this year. My goldenrod topped off. I picked it. This bottle will strain enough to make me a pretty good, probably a tincture bottle about this big. This is calcium, magnesium, and zinc, if anybody wants to know. And that will do me all year. That will do me all year. It will do me and my entire family all year. Because you only need about a half a dropper to a dropper once or twice a day. Not a doctor. This is not medical advice. But, I can go out in my backyard and eat crap. I will go out in my backyard and eat crap. My husband thought I was crazy one day. I was eating sassafras leaves while he was berry picking. And he thought I was crazy. And then I dug up the sassafras root and brought it home, because you can boil it down. I mean, it takes a while to boil it down, but you can boil it down and make a really sweet tea. It tastes kind of like a root beer, kind of like a tea. It's a weird, that's where they got root beer from, but it's a weird taste. And he thought I was weird for the longest time. Black walnut tincture is very potent and very powerful. I'd say look into that. White pine needle tea is very potent and very powerful. Look into that. There's lots of stuff just floating around. I had a huge wild lettuce stalk in my backyard, but it was in such a bad spot. I told my husband, I said, it looks so ugly, weed whack that puppy down. And he weed whacked the puppy down. I'll have you know, I can't find another one on my property to save my life. But you can make a tincture out of wild lettuce too, which is more of a pain relief. And don't let these people around here tell you that it's going to make you high or crazy, or no, it's an analgesic pain relief. It's not going to make you crazy. Oh yeah, dandelions are great. Dandelion jelly is awesome. Honeysuckle jelly is awesome. If you ever lose my son in the woods in the spring, he's in the middle of a honeysuckle patch eating honeysuckle. I will sit in a clover patch and eat clover till the cows come home. Not even gonna lie. I love it. I love the taste of it. It's one of my favorite foods. But this stuff is becoming more prominent knowledge. People are being looked at now as less quacky. And they're understanding that we just have a closer relationship with the woods. And so we're becoming less hated. Because the first few years I was on Facebook, and my husband's a trapper. Because we have way too many beaver, way too many coyote. We have a lot of aggressive predators up here that the numbers are getting out of hand. And so the TWRA begged him to start trapping. And so anytime that somebody has a waterway issue with beaver or muskrats or anything, or a coyote issue taking domesticated animals, they will say, call this man. And so we get calls all the time about trapping. So my husband traps. And we try to, we know how to tan, so we tan their hides, and we try to turn them into beautiful things so that we can sell them and reverence the animal. And a lot of people think that's really rude, but I think it's more rude to kill it, chuck it somewhere, let it rot, and not use it. I missed that. I didn't see what it came up so fast. I am blind, so I have to read really, really quickly. People get mad at me. They're like, how could you kill an animal? How could you? And I'm like, in the 5 minutes you've talked to me online, you have called me more names than I've called anybody in 3 years. So don't ask me how I could kill an animal. Yeah, it's supper time here too. I'll have to get something going. My dogs look at me because they eat, I make them certain foods because I don't like to feed them kibble all the time, and they're looking at me like, the stove lady, the stove. So I'm going to have to get to the stove and get this too, but I did this right before the sun was going down here, and so I'm going to put this up. We'll check in on it over the next few weeks, and we'll see what it looks like. But just my little tip about how I do things. You don't have to do it that way, because I'm not a doctor, but this is just things that I found to work for me and be good for my health. And it outshines a lot of the medical professionals and the things that they try to give me. So, and I'm going to be trying to post a video either later tonight or tomorrow. It's going to be more of a sassy video. Y'all may not like it. Y'all don't have to like everything I do, though. So, and I'm also researching currently the Utah sex offender statutes, because they changed mildly in 2021 with the pandemic. Because I have questions that the Down Under Crime Channel wanted me to answer, but I don't want to give them wrong answers, so I'm researching. I'm researching. The natural talk. Sometimes I'm amazed y'all can understand me because I have such an accent. One day, I'm going to try one day this week to go visit my mama. And she takes care of my granny. And so I can show you more of how I was raised and where I came from with that video. She doesn't like to be videoed, but I'll do it anyway. She's not on YouTube, she won't know. But you can see kind of how I was raised. And my mom didn't get out of college till she was 36. She was adamant she wanted an education. And so my time was split between my mother in lecture halls and my father in horse barns, because my dad was a farrier and a horse trainer. So I am a strange person. But I grew up eating out of the woods, hunting. I was in a marksmanship class when I was in 4th grade. I don't remember a time I was never taught firearm safety. I don't know, maybe I'm just weird, but around here I'm just normal. So I appreciate all y'all that enjoy my life. I have elderberry jam in the fridge. Elderberry is great. Elderberry is awesome. And if you don't like to get the jam, or you don't like the sugar and stuff, you can actually find elderberry with zinc in capsule form, and the zinc will help the elderberry attack, the bad stuff in your cells. So that's a good and viable option too. I think it's only like $10 or $12, and it's a pretty good bottle full. Yeah, when the crap goes down. I have a lot of friends that say, when the zombie apocalypse happens, we're coming to your door. And I'm like, what makes you think I'll be at my house? I live in a place where there's so many caves and hidey holes. Yeah. This is a big place for the Cherokee and the Algonquin inclined tribes used to live, and there are a lot of cave networks. A lot of them, some of them have been studied by researchers because of the bat populations, and some haven't. But there are places here that, yeah, you would never be found. Matter of fact, we lost 2 people in the last decade. We lost one. It took us 7 years to find him. They found him passed away, and then one guy went ginsenging a few years ago, and they still haven't found hide nor hair of him. We are a very wild area, and the place where he went missing, I ginseng my entire life, and I rode horses my entire life, and it kind of behooves me because it funnels you down to the river, and you have to follow the river. And so I don't know what happened to him, and they haven't found him yet. Bless his heart. But yeah. Every once in a while, once we were going to go ginsenging, and the state troopers had the road blocked, and we were like, what's going on? And they said, somebody got lost in here last night ginsenging. And I was like, it's literally like a teardrop formation of like 20 acres between a river and a road. Like if you walk, you know, just a little while either way, you're going to hit a river that you follow down the hill, or you're going to hit a road. How did a grown man get lost in there? And the state trooper just looked at me and he goes, honey, most men are not as manly as you. And I thought, fair enough. So they did find him, though. They found him safely. He had just got turned around. I don't know how he got turned around that small of an area. But he had just gotten turned around. But we do live in an area that is kind of dangerous. We have a lot of wild hogs. I did a lot of wild hog hunting when I was young. We have a lot of wild hogs. Our bear population is getting out of freaking hand. They meander through here a lot, and they're the most clumsy and belligerent things because they have to either bump up against something, scratch something, or bite something when they come through. So you know they've been through. Of course, we have cameras up everywhere, and so we know when they're coming through. We had, for 4 years, we had a den of fox that raised all their pups right down by the spring. We have a spring on our property. And I love to listen to them call their pups in the spring and summertime. They would talk to each other. And I used to live on a cattle farm in Middle Tennessee for about 7 years. And they had where people would try to raise peacocks, and the peacocks would run off. They had wild peacocks. And you would invite people over for a barbecue from the city, from Nashville. I was about 30 minutes outside of Nashville. And we'd be sitting at the back patio eating. And all of a sudden you'd hear a, hey, hey! And they go, who's in the woods? A peacock. So I got kind of tickled with that. But yeah, life is going to change in the next few years. And I hope that most of y'all have the common sense to look at some of the older ways. To look at some of the, digging a root cellar. How to can, how to put stuff up. Oh gosh, on Facebook now, if you can, you're a prepper. I guess I've been a prepper since kindergarten because I've canned my entire life. So I didn't have a pantry of 2 years worth of beans and everything else. It just wasn't normal life. So it's amazing. It's amazing to see the change in society in the last few years and what they're looking at. And when people take an interest to say, oh, I can take care of myself in this way, and then the government goes, no, you can't. It just makes me want to look at it more and go, yeah, I can. You just shut up and I'm going to look at it anyway. So, yeah. Normally when people try to run you off a topic, it's probably when you need to stick to it like glue. Yeah, we eat more venison in the winter than we eat anything else. Yeah. And after the warm weather passes and the wolves, the worms pass, and it gets cold, my husband loves squirrel dumplings, like chicken and dumplings, but it's squirrel and dumplings. And people are like, that is so horrible. No, it's not. It's food. It's food. You go and have what? Foie gras or whatever that is, liver duck stuffed, or duck liver stuffed. I ate a squirrel. So it's like, don't tell me I'm nasty. So, you know, the social stratus that we have tried to create a mindset of certain people can get away with this because it's hoity-toity, and then certain people can't because it's, you know, they're nuisance, they're stupid, they're beneath us. I think we're starting to figure out, you know, in the 1950s when they turned Appalachia into a, like, they tried to come in and turn it into a welfare area. It ruined a lot of the good, hardy people that lived here. Now we have deer that raise on our land every year, and we have a doe that has routinely had triplets, and we put out salt licks and stuff for her because we normally have something in the pasture, and she, like, you know, she'll just join in and lick on it too. But if we think she's not got enough feed for her, you know, she's not producing enough milk for her triplets, she either has twins or triplets every year. Then when we feed the horse or the goats or something, we'll throw extra because we know that she will come over and eat it, and we won't. We won't harvest her because she's kind of come family. So we're not heartless people, you know. But we do try to, you know, we don't trophy hunt. We're not looking for the big bucks. We're not looking for anything that's going in a record book. We're just looking for food for the freezer. Well, you know, lots of states you have to be careful when you put corn out for deer, especially during hunting season, because even if you don't intend to shoot them, if you put corn out for deer, you can be charged with baiting. Tip: talk to your game warden. So when it starts deer season, like the end of this month, toward the end of this month, we'll have first archery season. We will stop everything here probably next week, and because you cannot hunt anywhere that corn's been for at least 10 days, it has to be. You have to give it at least 10 days, and then you can't put any more out. So whether you're hunting or not, if you're putting corn out and it's during a hunting season, they can still charge you with baiting. No, during hunting season, that's when they charge with baiting. Now some states do. I'm in Tennessee, so that's Tennessee law. Some states have different. I know in Georgia right now, somebody was trying to feed the doves, feed some of the birds. And so they went out on somebody's huge game reserve. It's like a wildlife management area, and they actually took a spreader and spread corn and grain and everything else, and then reported it to the state authority. And they had to shut down the game reserve. Nobody can hunt there this year. It's officially closed down because it was baiting, and if they see baiting there, they shut it down for basically the entire season. So a lot of people that got a lot of their meat that they put up for the winter from the first of the bird hunts there are not going to have their meat to put up from there because of whoever put that baiting out. And it was not just somebody hunting that threw out a pile somewhere, you know, trying to attract a few. It was a big operation that spread it all over the place. And I thought, well, that was crooked. That was very crooked of you because it shut the entire place down for the year. I thought that was very rude. But Tennessee, we have some pretty strict rules in Tennessee. And if you want to feed them, feed them. Just make sure you know when your hunting seasons are, and don't feed during your hunting seasons. Because if they have a predictable path, it's going to help a hunter harvest them. And I'm not one of those hunters that thinks it should be easy. I think you should go out and you should have to work for it. That's just how I was raised. You go out way into the woods and you work for it. And so we try not to you know, we will actually buy into huge leases, you know, like that are 4,000 acres. And, you know, that's where we will go hunt. Even though we've got a lot of public land, it's just we prefer to buy into a hunting lease and go out and hunt in bigger land. But be careful when you feed, because don't feed during hunting season. You can still be charged with baiting, whether you're hunting or not. You can still be charged with baiting. And it will also put that animal in possible danger, because then they create a steady, predictable path, and anybody that's scouting will see that steady, predictable path, and they may not know they're going to your corn pile or your baiting spot every day, but they may cross 4 other pieces of property to get there, and somebody will harvest them because they have a predictable path. Deer change their path often, and right around the rut, they will change their path again. They're fixing to change their paths here in the next few weeks. So, yeah. We don't allow, like, we don't take anything. We've just got a few acres here. You know, we don't take anything unless it's... I had a possum that kept coming up trying to kill my cats. Normally, I don't care if a possum comes up and eats out of my kitty's bowls. I'll feed the possum special kitty till the day's, you know, I don't care. Because possums eat ticks and other varmints. And so that's okay, Mr. Possum. If you want to live here and eat the special kitty, that's fine. Don't be an asshole. Well, he was being an asshole. So he was trying to attack my other cats, and I have barn cats that I feed. And he almost did kill a couple of my younger cats. And I looked at my husband and I said, he's got to go. I said, we've got to cull him. And so we had to cull that guy. And I could barely pick him up. And he was the biggest possum. Of course, I had fed him special kitty for 1.5 years, so he was a big possum. Now, my in-laws are old school. They'll still eat possum and sweet tater and groundhog and whatever's in season, they'll still eat. Maybe one day I need to do a video of them. They are old school. Like, when my husband was 12, he was given a chainsaw and taught how to clear land. They're old school. I'm country, but I say I'm an educated hillbilly. My husband is country, and his family are country. My mother is very in touch with her native indigenous roots, and she did an Appalachia program for years and years and years at her elementary school where she taught, and they actually did it at Dollywood for a couple of summers. Dollywood wanted it done there, so they did it there. And she performed at the Museum of Appalachia, which is in Clinton, Tennessee, which is a great place. If y'all have never visited, go visit. So my mom is really, really in touch with that too. I'm your hillbilly sister. And you know, I have friends all over. I have in Australia, New York. I have my best friend, one of my best, most beloved friends is in Prague, in the Czech Republic. And I have friends all over. So I have a good, healthy worldview. You know, I'm not isolated and I don't have my blinders on and living here in the hills. I'm just very aware of who I am, and I don't try to hide it. And believe it or not, I get a really good response from most people. So I'm just me. And a lot of people go, well, you should look nicer when you come on YouTube. Well, it's not about what I look like. It's about what I have to say. And I would rather come on here looking like trash and tell you something useful as to come on here real pretty and tell you nothing. Which I've noticed a lot of women spend 3 hours to come on here and tell you nothing. Vapid is the word I would use for them. Hunters are the biggest conservation fuelers. We pay for legit 99% of everything that goes to help wildlife, maintain conservation areas, maintain wildlife management areas where no hunting can be done. We just have elk coming back into the area, and so they only have like 3 or 5 tickets a year for elk in this area. And that has been the money and the conservation from the hunters in the area. If you do not understand what a true hunter or outdoorsman is, I would say go to Steve Isdell's channel, How to Hunt. He does like a lot of Bigfoot stories too, but he has one channel that's purely about hunting. He spends about 250 days in the woods as a hunter. He guides hunts, big horned sheep up in the crags, the hills, black-tailed deer, grizzly. He hunts everything. And so he understands and lives a life that I'm not sure I could even muster up the courage to live. But if you want to know how hard these people work and how precious their outdoor world is to them, go check out Steve Isdell's How to Hunt channel. And you will understand that the people that harvest these animals are also their protectors. They take massive care of those that they harvest, and because without them they understand that life stops. That's my refrigerator. Don't mess with my refrigerator. So that's just kind of how I look at it. Don't mess with my pantry. I'm not gonna like you very much if you do. A lot of people want to say, you know, blue tongue, chronic wasting, and all this other stuff is ruining hunting. But it's actually really good every once in a while for something to come through and clear out the herd and take the ones that are a little bit more easily diseased. It's not an absolute bad thing. It's horrible to see. It's horrible to watch. But it's Mother Nature, and that's what Mother Nature does. And people, you know, and people get mad, but I say, you know, I don't know where this coronavirus came from. I know that coronavirus has been around forever because I used to be in vet school, and coronaviruses were a prominent issue with dogs. So when everybody was freaking out over this word coronavirus, I was like, I know that word. Know that word forever. Brucellosis is something you should really be scared about. But everybody freaked out. And, you know, if it's something that Mother Nature creates, it's going to be for a reason. It's going to be for a beneficial reason. There's going to be something that Mother Nature has within herself to heal it. And I think we've all kind of come to the assumption we kind of know that it's probably not what happened at this point. YouTube can kiss my hind end about that one. If they want to take this video down, they can. So, that's about how I feel about them. But this is a great tactic. I do other stuff. I just don't always think to share it when I do it. But from now on, when I do stuff like this, I will share it. I need to show y'all my mama's Cannon Pantry. Lord, if I put that on Facebook, there would probably be, she would probably have a SWAT team show up. But it's just people that live in Appalachia that grow their gardens. They don't waste anything. They put it all up. And if we don't feed just our family, we feed the neighborhood. So it boggles my mind that our government would be upset with people that put up enough food to say, hey, I'm a community resource if something goes wrong. I've got enough to share. Why would they not want us to have enough to share? Why would they not want us relying upon each other? Why would they want us at each other's throats instead of friendly with each other? Why would they want us not allowing other people to speak and believe that speech instead of to respond with hostility instead of, okay, that's your viewpoint, this is mine. And then we go on with our day. Why has it become such a hostile issue? Because hostility and fear is easier to control. You're easier to control when you're hostile and in fear. Much easier. Like, I mean, if I could never get a bull loaded on the farm, I'd piss him off. And then I'd get him in the trailer. Because he got stupid when he got mad. And I could get him in the trailer. So, I look at, my government and I go, really? Temple Grandin had a really good point. If you don't know who Temple Grandin is, she's an autistic woman who has been very, very prominent in the livestock world. And she actually could look at the slaughterhouses from the animal's perspective and understand what was creating the tenseness and creating the animals to revolt, to break walls, throw a fit, get really upset. And the last thing you want an animal that's going to a slaughterhouse to do is be upset for its last 10 minutes of life. That's the last thing you want. And so she looked at it from the animal's view and she began to curve the walls. Well, instead of 90-degree angles, the cattle would see a curved wall and they would be like, okay, and they would go readily around it. And there would be none of the fear or, the hyper reactivity. And she realized that this was easier to get them to follow the path of least resistance, the path that scared them less. Then they would go readily, easily to their death. I know that sounds horrible, but now look at it like this. If they can figure that out with livestock, what can they figure out with people? Have they already curved our hallways where we're walking straight to the slaughter? Think about it. Think about it for 5 minutes. And then people go, you shouldn't think about your government that way. I think about anybody that's not me that has power above me. I worry about their concern. What are they concerned with? What is their motive? And where are we going? So that's who I am. I'm not mean to them. I don't wish them any harm. I just pay attention. I shut my mouth when I put myself in a corner and I pay attention. So, more people need to be paying attention. But yeah, if you meet somebody that has a different perspective, listen to it. Because whether or not you use it, you put it in your brain, and I guarantee you will regurgitate it at some point and it will be useful. So, don't be mean to people that have a different perspective. Don't be callous to people that have a different idea. Don't call people stupid because they don't see things the way that you see it. Learn from them. Even if it's just to learn that you're not going to follow that crowd, learn from it. And I will be back when I do my next concoction. And I'll post my video as soon as I get it done. But I've got to feed my children, my little dogs. and to let my 23-year-old son know that I'm okay because he's messaging me every 5 minutes. So, Mama Liz, gotta go be